Good evening, one and all. We welcome you all to the one-day international seminar on global media, information literacy, disarmament, United Nations, World Development Information, Health, Environment, Well-being, and Sustainable Development 2023, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 76 years of independence. India's G20 presidency, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2015 to 2030 as part of awareness and campaigns. And also commemorating Global Media and Information Literacy Week, Disarmament Week, and today is also commemorated as United Nations Day and World Development Information Day. And today is also commemorated as World Polio Day. And we are commemorating and celebrating Vijayadashmi, Dasara. So on various commemorations today, we see that this seminar is being organized by Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute Center for Arts, Sciences and Wellbeing. Before we start our sessions, let's take the blessings of Almighty.
कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः.
With the blessings of Almighty, we shall continue with today's sessions. First, we look at various commemorations for the day. This entire week is commemorated as Global Media and Information Literacy Week from 24th to 31st October with the theme for this year 2023, Media and Information Literacy in Digital Spaces, a Collective Global Agenda is the theme for 2023. So, in the UN Common Agenda report of the Secretary General of the United Nations, 12 commitments were made by the world leaders. Among these commitments, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres highlighted the values of trust and solidarity as being the glue for social cohesion and social breakthroughs for the common good. However, the harsh reality is that the trust factor is being eroded. Considering our common agenda, we are calling the global community to not only reaffirm and increase commitment to media and information literacy, in short known as MIL, for all, but to also to develop new initiatives on MIL to nurture trust. The Global MIL Week 2023 focus on digital spaces and gives the opportunity to explore paths for strengthening multilateral cooperation with digital platforms and other stakeholders. It highlights promising actions in connection with the media and information literacy in the last year and how media information literacy helps with nurturing trust and countering mistrust. Actually, this week commemoration and celebrations which were scheduled to take place in Jordan due to the situation in that region, the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan and UNESCO have decided to postpone Global ML Week 2023 for 23rd to 25th October in the Dead Sea to the future date that will be communicated later on. So this Global ML Week 2023 conference addresses various issues and related to this commemoration. So in 2021, the UN General Assembly decided to commemorate Media and Information Literacy Week, citing the need for the dissemination of factual, timely, targeted, clear, accessible, multilingual, and science-based information. The resolution recognizes that the substantial digital divide and data inequalities that exist among different countries and within them can be addressed in part by improving people's competence to seek, receive, and impart information in the digital realm. In the current ecosystem of complex and sometimes contradictory messages and meanings, it is hard to conceive of the public good being advanced if the public is disempowered in the face of opportunities and threats. Each individual's need to be equipped with media and information literacy competencies to understand the stakes and to contribute to the benefit from information and communication opportunities. Global Media and Information Literacy Week, commemorated annually, is a major occasion for stakeholders to review and celebrate the progress achieved towards media and information literacy for all. Now, when we are talking about media and information literacy, what actually it means? Our brains depend on information to work optimally. So the quality of information we engage will largely determines our perceptions, beliefs, and attitudes. So it could be information from other persons, the media, libraries, archives, museums, publishers, or any other information providers, including those on internet. People across the world are witnessing a dramatic increase in the access to information and communication. While some are starved for information, others are flooded with print, broadcast, and digital content, media, and information literacy. So ML provides answers to questions that we will ask for ourselves at some point. How we can access, search critically, assess, use, and contribute content wisely, both online and offline. What are our rights online and offline? What are the ethical issues surrounding the access and use of information? How can we engage with media and information and communication technologies, ICTs, to promote equality, intercultural and interreligious dialogue, peace, freedom of expression, and access to information? Through capacity building resources such as curricular development, policy guidelines, and the articulation and assessment framework, UNESCO supports the development of ML competencies among people. As part of this Global ML Youth Hackathon is an occasion. The virtual hackathon is an occasion for young people and youth organizations to participate in the creation of innovative ML learning meaningful ways. So every year, youth worldwide are invited to participate and design innovative solutions to a defined set of social challenges. In connection with the year's theme, winning teams and the outcome of the hackathon will be presented during the Youth Agenda Forum. Social media has been a powerful tool to help and develop ML, and ML clicks is a way for people acquire ML competencies in their normal day-to-day use of the internet and social media, and to engage peer education in an atmosphere of browsing, playing, connecting, sharing, and socializing. So, what is common agenda for UN, or our common agenda is Secretary General's vision for the future of the cooperation. It calls for the inclusive, networked, and effective multilateralism to better respond and deliver for the people and the planet to get the world back on track, and by turbocharging action on sustainable development goals. It outlines possible solutions to address the gaps and risks that have emerged since 2015, calling for a summit for the future that will be held in 2024. So the choices we make or fail to make today could result in breakdown or a breakthrough to a greener, better, safer future. The choice is ours to make. So on the 75th anniversary of the United Nations, in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, member states pledged to strengthen global governance for present and future generations. They requested the Secretary General report back with the recommendations to report to current and future challenges. As per UN 75 Declaration, Resolution number 75 by 1, in September 2021, the Secretary General responded with his report, Our Common Agenda, a wake-up call to spread the implementation in sustainable development goals and propel commitments contained in the UN 75 Declaration. In some cases, the proposals addressed gaps that emerged since 2015, requiring new intergovernmental agreements. The report, therefore, called for a summit of the future to forge a new global consensus on reading ourselves for future life with risks but also opportunities. So the General Assembly welcomed the submission of our common agenda and passed a resolution to hold the summit on 22-23 September 2024, preceded by ministerial meeting in 2023. An action-oriented pact for the future is expected to be agreed by member states through the intergovernmental negotiations on issues they decide to take forward. As quoted by the Secretary General in February 2023, our common agenda is aimed at turbocharging the 2030 agenda and making the sustainable development goals real in the lives of people everywhere. Because halfway to 2030, we are far off track, and we will only make up lost ground by addressing the gaps and challenges that have emerged since 2015. So, including gaps in interpersonal. So we must recognize the humanity's very future depends on solidarity, trust, and our ability to work together. As a global family to achieve common goals, no community or country, however powerful, can solve this challenge alone. Multilateral action has achieved an enormous amount over the past 75 years. Our common agenda must be starting point for ideas and initiatives that build on these achievements. When coming to implementation, our common agenda is an agenda of action designed to strengthen and accelerate multilateral agreements, particularly the 2030 agenda, and make tangible difference to the people's lives. Translating its recommendations into all actions will require action by the member states of the United Nations, supported by the United Nations system and other stakeholders. So many proposals in our common agenda will be implemented through existing process and forums, including those relating to Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Our common agenda is aimed at addressing the crisis we faced on so that we can turbocharge the implementation of Agenda 2030, rescue the SDGs, and get him back on track. So the submission of our common agenda report was welcomed by the General Assembly in November 2021 by Resolution 76 by 6 as a basis for further member state discussion. Informal thematic constitution by the General Assembly took place in February and March 2022, and the President of General Assembly then issued guidance on the way forward, pointing the way for the implementation of the report's recommendations at the UN General, regional, and national global levels. So member states agreed to hold the Summit of the Future in 22nd, 23rd September 2024. Practical consultancies on preparations for the summit also began in February 2023, spearheaded by co-facilitators, the permanent representatives of Germany, Namibia to the UN, and So over the next years, or next few years, a number of proposed proposed important milestones will drive intergovernmental action and help deliver our common agenda. So these include General Assembly and consultations from March to April 2002, Transforming Education Summit 19th September 2022, Summit of the Future 22 to 23 September 2024. In support of these milestones, the President of General Assembly of the 77th session has appointed or intends to appoint co-facilitators to advance different aspects for our common agenda, like Summit of the Future in Germany and Namibia, Global Digital Compact, Sweden and Rwanda, Declaration for Future Generations, Netherlands and Jamaica. The Secretary General also appointed a high-level advisory board on effective multilateralism, in short known as HLAB, to provide suggestions on ways to improve governance of key issues. The global concern, the highest level advisory body, issued in the recommendations on 18th April 2023 with view to supporting member state deliberations at the Summit of the Future. So what does this common agenda report says? We are at the inflection point in the history. The COVID-19 pandemic has served as a wake-up call, and with the climate crisis now looming, the world is experiencing its biggest shared test since Second World War. Humanity faces a stark and urgent choice, breakdown or breakthrough. The choice we make or fail to make today could result in further breakdown and a future of perpetual crisis, or breakthrough to a better, more sustainable, peaceful future for our people and planet. Our common agenda is an agenda of action designed to strengthen and accelerate multilateral agreements, particularly the 2030 agenda, and make a tangible difference in people's lives. Our common agenda contains recommendations, one across 4 broad areas for renewed solidarity between peoples and future generations, a new social contract anchored in human rights, better management of critical global commons, and global public goods that deliver equity and sustainability for all. Our common agenda presents the Secretary General's general vision on the future of global cooperation through an inclusive, network, and effective multilateral effective multilateralism. So there are certain key proposals, 12 across the 12 commitments, the declaration of the commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. There are these 12 recommendations. UNESCO supports the development of media and information literacy for all to enable people's ability to think critically and click wisely. The organization particularly strives to enhance capacities of policymakers, educators, information and media professionals, youth organizations, and the disadvantaged population in this area, assisting member states to formulate national media and international information literacy policies and strategies. So unifying notions of media and information literacy, the UNESCO MIL curriculum and competency framework combines two distinct areas, media literacy and information literacy, under one umbrella term, media and information literacy, in short known as MIL. So it moves from what the terminologies mean individually, as shown, to a unified notion that embodies elements of both media literacy and information literacy and conveys the aims and objectives of MIL. Key outcomes elements of media and information literacy include information literacy, define and articulate information needs, locate and access information, organize information, make ethical use of information, communicate information, use ICT skills for information processing. And coming to media literacy, understand the role and functions of media in democratic societies, understand the conditions under which can fulfill their functions, critically evaluate media content in the light of media functions, engage with media for self-expression and democratic participation. Review skills, including ICTs needed to produce user-generated content. On the one hand, information literacy emphasizes the importance of access to information and the evaluation and ethical use of such information. On the other hand, media literacy emphasizes the ability to understand media function, evaluate how those functions are performed, and rationality engage with media for self-expression. The MIL curriculum and the competency framework for teacher incorporates both ideas, various definitions, or conceptualization of media literacy and information literacy education point to the competence that emphasize the development of inquiry-based skills and the ability to engage meaningful with media and information channels in whatever form and technologies they are using. There are two main schools of thought emerging about the relationship between the converging fields, media literacy and information literacy. For some, information literacy is considered as a broader field of study, with media literacy submerged or subsumed into it, while for others, information literacy is merely a part of media literacy, so which is seen as a broader field. However, an international expert group covered by UNESCO has pointed out the distinction as well as the linkage between media and other information providers, considering the following terminologies being used by various actors around the world: media literacy, information literacy, freedom of expression and information literacy, library literacy, news literacy, computer literacy, internet literacy, digital literacy, cinema literacy, games literacy, television literacy, advertising literacy, and so on. So these are obvious relationship among these notions. Not all these linkages are explained in this framework document. However, some of the subject of related activities and in the introductory module, module 1 of ML curriculum that UNESCO has produced, the salient point here is that as teachers become more knowledgeable about the MIL field, they will come across these terms and should at least be conversant with them. Many of these terminologies continue to be the subject of lively debate and are applied differently depending on the professional context or cultural practice of the communities of those who have them. Globally, many organizations use the term media education, which is sometimes accepted as covering both media and information literacy. UNESCO's use of the term MIL seeks to harmonize the different notions in the light of conveying delivery platforms. So the UNESCO ML model ML curriculum and competency framework for teachers is intended to provide teacher education systems in developed and developing countries with a framework to construct the program for turning out teachers who are media information literate. UNESCO also envisions that education will review the framework, taken up the challenge of participating in collecting process of the shaping and enriching the curriculum as a living document for So for this reason, curriculum focus only on required core competencies and skills, which can be seamlessly integrated into existing teacher education without putting much of strain on already overloaded teacher trainees. So the ecology of ML or notions of ML include information literacy, library literacy, FOE and FOI literacy, digital literacy, computer literacy, internet literacy, games literacy, cinema literacy, television literacy, news literacy, advertising literacy, media literacy. So the ML ecology has different elements. So the Global Media and Information Literacy Youth Hackathon with the theme Youth Empowering Media and Information Literacy in Digital Spaces. The UNESCO Annual Global Media and Information Literacy Week is a major occasion for stakeholders to review and celebrate the progress achieved towards media and information literacy for all. The Global Media and Information Literacy Youth Hackathon is an integral part on the Global Media and Information Literacy Week Youth Agenda Forum. This is an opportunity for young people and young organizations. The Global Media and Information Literacy Youth Hackathon is an integral part of the Global Media and Information Literacy Week Youth Agenda Forum. It is an opportunity for young people and youth organizations worldwide to participate in creating innovative ML learning in meaningful ways. Following the previous 4 successful editions, the Global Media and Information Literacy Youth Hackathon will be held during Global ML Week 2023. So UNESCO and partners call on youth worldwide to participate in virtual hackathon to design, innovate solutions to a directed set of youth from schools, universities, youth centers, youth organizations, and youth leaders from around the globe are invited to participate. The winning teams and the outcomes of the hackathon will be presented during Global MIL Week and ML clicks is a way for people to acquire media and information literacy competencies in their normal day-to-day use of the internet and social media, and to engage in peer education and atmosphere of bringing, browsing, playing, connecting, sharing, and socializing. So ML clicks rational is that social media is a powerful tool to help people better media and information literacy. Many people are causing or using social media to access information and social media and various media contents. So this is especially so for youth who spend much time on different networks. Therefore, social media networks can be used to train people in the normal social context to be more ML competent. Social media can also deliver compelling information to raise awareness about the importance of the media and information literacy to all levels of the society. The ML Clicks framework takes a collaborative approach between the global alliance of partnerships on media and information literacy, in short known as GAPMIL, current partner organization, future partner organizations, and other ML actors. In addition to ML competency training and awareness raising, ML Clicks will strive to increase likelihood and media reporting about ML, engage with doctors for ML education, introduce new public policy promoting ML, and grow the number of partner organizations that are part of the movement for online literacy. So ML Clicks targets policymakers, ML experts, teachers without ML, expertise development agencies, private sector organizations, and the general public. ML Click social media initiative is carried out globally and hence in multiple languages. The current available versions are in English, Portuguese, and Serbian. The acronym ML Click stands for the Media and Information Literacy, Critical Thinking, Creativity, Literacy, Intercultural, Citizenship, Knowledge, and Sustainability. The objects of the social media strategy are to use social media to expose the people to become more media and information literate and to raise awareness about importance of media and information literacy. So let's watch a video that will help us to understand.
media and information literacy, critical thinking and creativity, literacy, intercultural, citizenship, knowledge, sustainability, equals mill clicks. We click millions of times each day. We click to search, read, watch, listen, interact, play, and create. But are we doing it wisely? Behind each of the clicks, there is information or content someone created. Do we know where to find information and what sources to believe? Do we know how to critically engage with information, media, and technology to get involved into peace building, dialogue, promote tolerance, diversity, equality, freedom of expression, and for better internet experiences? MillClicks is a new movement about media and information literacy. It is started as a shared effort of UNESCO, partners, and all of you. Use Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to play, relax, and learn. Involve your minds and hearts by sharing posts, tips, solving quizzes, creating content, and learning new skills. But we will also challenge you to practice your media and information literacy skills, to click wisely, creatively, and critically. This is part of what media and information literacy is about. Are you up for it? Join the movement. Look up, share, and create relevant content using MillClicks hashtag and become a MillClicker. Coming soon, accumulate MillClicks digital currency for wise clicking.
The way we create and consume information has changed significantly in recent years. Today, more than half of the world's population, including over 70% of all youth globally, are online. But how can we make sure that all information is used for public good? To promote dialogue and respect, support SDGs and democracy, and empower lifelong learners, instead of breeding hate speech, disinformation, fake news, and privacy violations. Media and information literacy is designed to combat these challenges and enable people to better benefit from positive opportunities. It gives individuals the skills to interpret and understand information, to think critically and click wisely, both on and offline. UNESCO has launched the second edition of the Mill curriculum for educators and learners. It provides a comprehensive framework for information, media, and digital competencies, so individuals can spot misinformation and engage positively in society. It's not just a framework, but a foundation to live by. To help make sense of ever-changing information-based influences by becoming media and information literate citizens, we are empowered to make the right choices. Learn more about media and information literacy and how it can support citizens to think critically and click wisely, on and offline.
Media and information literacy empowers people to think critically about information and use of digital tools. Media and information literacy helps people to make informed choices about how they participate in peace building, equality, freedom of expression, access to information, and sustainable development goals in general. UNESCO supports and champions media and information literacy initiatives across the globe. We do this through actions such as capacity building for various stakeholders, developing curricula for educators and learners to aid the integration of media and information literacy in all levels of education, assisting governments and institutions to formulate national media and information literacy policies and strategies, training journalists to promote media and information literacy to build trust in media, strengthening international cooperation and raising awareness through the UNESCO Media and Information Literacy Alliance, supporting youth organisations to integrate media and information literacy into their policies and operations, and become peer educators online, offering a suite of online media and information literacy courses, including ones for policymakers, undertaking research with the UNESCO Media and Information Literacy and Intercultural Dialogue University Network, organising the annual Global Media and Information Literacy Week. With this holistic approach and rich resources, we can help foster media and information literacy among people and communities across the globe. Here's how you can get involved in UNESCO's media and information literacy initiatives and make a real difference in society. Since 2013, the UNESCO Media and Information Literacy Alliance has brought global communities together, promoting international cooperation to advance media and information literacy for all. Spanning over 100 countries, the Alliance has more than 700 member organisations. Member organisations are committed to advocating for the development of media and information literacy, supporting the articulation of national media and information literacy policies, and collaborating to reduce duplication and fragmentation. Driven by UNESCO and partners with support from an international steering committee, regional chapters, youth ambassadors and thematic working groups, the UNESCO Media and Information Literacy Alliance coordinates activities at the global, regional and national levels. The Media and Information Literacy and Intercultural Dialogue University Network is a research arm of the Alliance. Youth are co-leaders in the Alliance network as peer educators through the UNESCO MILCLIX initiative. You can access hundreds of learning resources on media and information literacy by following MILCLIX social media pages. Join the UNESCO Media and Information Literacy Alliance as an individual or an organisation. Get involved now.
Hello, little one. Welcome to the world. My name is UNESCO.
You don't know me yet, but that's all right. We have plenty of time to get to know one another. You have just entered a world that is magnificent.
Magnificent and perilous at the same time.
You see, the world is in perpetual motion, sometimes for the better,
Sometimes for the worse. But in this world, there are people watching over you.
on Earth, and even in the sky. Scientists, engineers.
And so many other specialists.
We are UNESCO.
And our goal is to ensure that natural hazards do not turn into a disaster.
We are acting today,
but above all, for tomorrow.
and for you. We are using technologies such as sensors, satellites,
Drones and artificial intelligence to set up early warning systems
for floods, storms, drought, tsunamis,
and other potential hazards. We're also working with your community to make it better prepared for natural hazards.
training a new generation of masons to make sure that your home, your school, will be able to withstand earthquakes.
Strengthening historical buildings to protect your heritage.
Restoring mangroves around the world, because these coastal forests are your first line of defense against flooding.
Strong winds and tsunamis.
You see, little one,
You have just entered a world.
that is both wonderful and perilous.
It's a world in which we are doing our best to keep you safe. Discover what UNESCO is doing to build a safer world.
United Nations Hymn. Eagerly musician, sweep your string, elative, octative, so we may sing, our several voices interblending, playfully contending, not interfering, but co-inhering. For all within the cincture of the sound is holy ground, where all are brothers, none faceless others. Let mortals beware of words, for with words we lie, can say peace when we mean war, foul thoughts speak fair and promise falsely. But song is true. Let music for peace be the paradigm, for peace means to change at the right time as the world's clock goes tick and tock. So may the story of our human city presently move like music when begotten notes new notes beget, making the flowing of time a growing, till what it could be at last it is, where even sadness is a form of gladness, where fate is freedom, grace and surprise.
This week, we are also commemorating Disarmament Week. Disarmament Week seeks to promote awareness and better understanding of disarmament issues and their cross-cutting importance. Starting on 24th October, the anniversary of the founding of the United Nations, the week-long annual observance was first called for the final document of the General Assembly's 1978 special session on the disarmament resolution S10/2. In 1995, the General Assembly invited governments as well as NGOs to continue taking an active part in Disarmament Week. Resolution 50/72B, 12th December 1995, in order to promote a better understanding among the public of disarmament issues. Throughout history, countries have pursued disarmament to build a safer and more secure world to protect people from harm. Since the foundation of the United Nations, disarmament and arms control have played a critical role in preventing and ending crisis and armed conflict. Heightened tensions and dangers are better resolved through serious political dialogue and negotiation, not by more arms. Weapons of mass destruction, in particular nuclear weapons, continue to be primary concern owing to their destructive power and the threat they pose to the humanity. The excessive accumulation and the illicit trade in conventional weapons populated areas is seriously endangering civilians. New and emerging weapon technologies such as autonomous weapons imperil global security have received increased attention for the international community in recent years. Measures for disarmament are pursued for many reasons, including to maintain international peace, and security, uphold principles of humanity, protect civilians, promote sustainable development, foster confidence and trust among states, and prevent and end armed conflict. Disarmament and arms control measures help ensure international and human security in the 21st century, and therefore must be an integral part of the credible and effective collective security system. The United Nations continues to celebrate the efforts and the involvement of a range of factors contributing to a safer, more peaceful common future through disarmament, arms control, and non-proliferation efforts. In a world threatened by weapons of mass destruction, conventional arms, and emerging cyber warfare, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres presented a new agenda for disarmament to save humanity, save lives, secure our common future. The United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs, the Office of the Disarmament Affairs, supports the multilateral efforts aimed at achieving the ultimate goal of general and complete disarmament under strict and effective international control. The office also works to address the humanitarian impact of major conventional weapons and emerging weapons technologies such as autonomous weapons, as these issues have received increased attention from the international community. The UN and the UN nuclear age were born almost simultaneously. The horror of the Second World War, culminating into nuclear blast of Hiroshima and Nagasaki brought home the need to address the nuclear issue. By its resolution, the General Assembly established the UN Atomic Energy Commission to deal with the problems raised by the discovery of atomic energy, and a landmark address by United States President Dwight D. Eisenhower, however, in 1950. Atoms for Peace led to the establishment in 1957 of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Since its founding, the United Nations has sought the global elimination of nuclear weapons and all other weapons of mass destruction. Nuclear weapons pose a unique and existential threat to humanity due to their unparalleled destructive power. One nuclear weapon can destroy a whole city, potentially killing millions and jeopardizing the natural environment and lives of future generations through its long-term catastrophic effects. Although nuclear weapons have only been used twice in warfare, in the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, about 13,080 reportedly remain in our world today, and there have been over 2,000 nuclear tests conducted to date. Pursuing a world free of nuclear weapons is the best protection against such dangers, but achieving this goal has been a tremendously difficult challenge. The international taboo against the biological and chemical weapons grow out of the horrors of the First World War. Their use has long been established as contrary to the laws of humanity and the dictates of public conscience. Long sought efforts to globally eliminate these weapons of mass destruction finally came to fruition with the conclusion in 1972 of the Biological Weapons Convention, in 1993 of the Chemical Weapons Convention. So convention aims continue to be center of the world's conflicts and its civilians who continue to bear the brunt of such armed violence. The widespread availability of small arms and light weapons and their ammunition is a key enabler of armed violence and conflict. High levels of arms and ammunition in circulation contribute to the insecurity, facilitate human rights violations, and impede humanitarian access. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development importantly acknowledges the symbiotic relationship between peace and sustainable development. Sustainable Development Goal 16, in particular, recognizes that a significant reduction in illicit arms flows is necessary for peaceful, just, and as advances in science and technology continue to revolutionize human life, many developments, however, are also enabling at an accelerating pace the design and acquisition of new weapon technologies with unclear or potentially dangerous applications. From a peace and security perspective, there are concerns about the ability of the new weapons to destabilize security relations. For example, hypersonic weapons. In the face of growing autonomy in weaponry, new measures are necessary to ensure humans always maintain control over the use of force. States must also seek measures to prevent the arms race. Various bodies under the United Nations, including the General Assembly and the Security Council, work to advance international peace and security through the pursuit of elimination of nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction. The regulation of convention aims at ensuring responsible innovation and use of advances in science and technology. The United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs, in short known as UNODA, was first established in 1983, supports these bodies. The UN Secretary General, member states, and civil society groups is pursuing these goals. The office promotes nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation, strengthening of the disarmament regimes in respect to their other weapons of destruction, such as chemical. Disarmament and arms control efforts in the area of conventional weapons, such as landmines, cluster munitions, illicit trade in small arms and light weapons, and use of explosive weapons in populated areas, as well as through increasing transparency via the UN Registrar of Conventional Arms, ensuring responsible innovations and use of advanced insights and technology, and addressing emerging weapon technologies such as an autonomous weapon systems. In 2018, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres launched Securing Our Common Future, an agenda for disarmament, outlining a vision of disarmament actions that help set our world on a path towards sustainable peace and recovery for all. Disarmament saves humanity, saves lives, saves future generations, strengthens partnerships for disarmament.
Les dépenses militaires s'accroissent et la course aux armements s'accélère au niveau mondial, notamment dans les régions les plus dangereuses. Disarmament concerns every country and all weapons, from hand grenades to hydrogen bombs. Deadly weapons put us all at risk, and leaders have a responsibility to minimize that risk. I appeal to all states, including non-parties, to adhere to the non-proliferation and disarmament obligations and commitments under the NPT. All states, nuclear and non-nuclear, must work together to bridge the gulf that divides them. As armed conflict has moved from open fields into cities, explosive weapons are particularly deadly for civilians. And these weapons also have a devastating effect on hospitals, schools, and water and electricity supplies. If there is a major outbreak of armed conflict in our world, and we all hope there is not, I'm sure that it would be preceded by a massive cyber attack. And I'm prepared to make available my good offices to prevent conflict resulting from acts committed in cyberspace. And social media offers unprecedented tools to connect, to reach across borders, and join with others around the world through campaigns, non-governmental organizations, and online communities. The United Nations would like to work with you to help you acquire the knowledge and skills to amplify your voices and lead the change we need. Disarmament prevents and ends violence. Disarmament supports sustainable development. And disarmament is true to our values and principles.
Widely known as World's Atoms for Peace Development Organization, within the United Nations family, the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, is the international center for cooperation in the nuclear field. The agency works with its member states and multiple partners worldwide to promote safe, secure, and peaceful use of nuclear technologies. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the world's central intergovernmental forum for scientific and technical cooperation in the nuclear field, it works for the safe, secure, peaceful uses of science, nuclear science and technology, contributing to the international peace and security and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Today, we are also commemorating World Development Information Day. Mobilization of public opinion, an essential part of the world development consists of the mobilization of public opinion in both developing and developed nations in support of set of objectives and policies. So governments of more advanced countries must continue and intensify their endeavors to deepen public understanding of the interdependent nature of developmental efforts and the needs to assist the developing countries in accelerating their economic and social progress. Similarly, governments of developing countries must continue to make people at all levels aware of the benefits and sacrifices involved and to enlist their full participation in achieving the developmental goals and objectives. The mobilization of public opinion has to be responsibility mainly of the national bodies. Governments may give consideration to the establishment of new national bodies or to strengthening the existing ones designed to mobilize public opinion as a long-term measure to give increasing development to orientation to the educational curricula. Considering the leadership can make a significant contribution to the mobilization of the public opinion, the formulation of the concrete aims by the competent authorities is indispensable. The role of the Organization of the United Nations has been to assist the various national information media, in particular by supporting adequate basic information from which these media may draw both substance and inspiration for the work. In 1972, the General Assembly established World Development Information Day to draw this attention of the world developmental problems and the need to strengthen international cooperation to solve them through Resolution 3038 of 27. The Assembly decided that the date for the day should coincide with the United Nations Day, 24th October, which was also the date of the adoption in 1970, the International Development Strategy for the second United Nations Developmental Decade. The Assembly deemed that improving the dissemination of information and the mobilization of public opinion, particularly among young people, would lead to greater awareness of the problems of development, thus promoting efforts in the sphere of international cooperation for development. Since 1970s, government decided themselves to the fundamental objectives enshrined in the Charter of United Nations to create conditions of stability and well-being and to ensure a minimum standard of living consent with human dignity through economic and social progress and development. The launching of the first United Nations Development Decade in 1961 marked a major worldwide endeavor to give concrete substance to that solemn pledge. Since then, attempts have continued to adopt measures for this purpose. Unfortunately, however, the standard of living for millions of people in the world is still pitifully low. They are often still undernourished, uneducated, unemployed, and wanting in many basic amenities. Nonetheless, the current frustrations and disappointments must be allowed to cloud the vision or stand in the way of development objectives. The success of international development activities depend in large measure in improvement in general international situation that requires concrete progress, particularly in the protection of equal political economical, social, and cultural rights of the members of society. The ultimate objective of development must be to bring sustained improvement in the well-being of the individual to bestow benefits on all. If undue privileges, extremes of wealth, and social injustice persist, then development fails in its essential purpose. The international community must rise to the challenge of the present age of unprecedented opportunities offering by science and technological advances, such that there may be equity shared by all countries, in turn may contribute to the accelerated economic developments throughout the world. Science and technology developing countries must continue to increase their expenditure on research and development. They must also continue their concerned efforts with appropriate assistance from rest of the world in the expanding their capability to apply science and technology for development, so as to enable the technological gap to the significantly reduced. Full international cooperation must be extended for the establishment, strengthening, and the promotion of scientific research and technological activities which have bearing on the expression and modernization of economies. Particular attention must be devoted to fostering technologies situated for each country, and concentrated research efforts should be made in relation to selected problems, the solutions to which have a catalytic effect in accelerating development. The information and communication technologies have the potential to provide new solutions to the developmental challenges, particularly in the context of globalization, and can foster economic growth, competitiveness, access to information and knowledge, poverty eradication, and social inclusion that will help to expedite the integration of all countries, especially developing countries, in particular the least developed countries into the global economy. Furthermore, it is a well-established fact that the information and communication techniques present new opportunities and challenges, and that there is pressing need to address the major impediments that developing countries face in accessing new technologies, such as insufficient resources, infrastructure, education, capacity, investment, and connectivity, and the issues related to technology, worship, standards, and flows. In this respect, we call upon all stakeholders to provide adequate services, resources, enhance capacity building, and technology transfer on mutual agreed terms to developing countries. However, there are concerns regarding the digital divide to access to information and communication technology tools and broadband connectivity between countries at different levels of development, which affects many economically and socially relevant applications in areas such as government, business, health, and education, and further expression concern with the regards of the special challenges faced in the broadband connectivity by developing countries, including the least developed countries, small island developing states, and landlocked developing countries. So the Sustainable Development Goals are the blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. They address the global challenge we face, including poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, peace, and justice. So let's take time for action.
So what does prevention and protection mean in the Women, Peace and Security agenda, and how can we connect the dots between this and arms control and disarmament? Preventing violence against women and girls, as well as protecting them from all forms of violence and violations of their human rights, are among the main goals of the WPS agenda. Women and girls are often portrayed as vulnerable in conflict, but they are not inherently vulnerable. Among other factors, the availability of weapons is what makes them vulnerable to gender-based and sexual violence. This is a problem that exists both in societies embroiled in conflict as well as those considered to be at peace. Regulating the arms trade, improving national-level implementation of arms control measures, and preventing weapons diversion can be part of the solution. In recent years, we have seen good practices linking weapons regulation with the broader goals of prevention and protection. Many countries across the world are implementing legislation that denies gun licenses to people who have been convicted of domestic violence, intimate partner violence, violent intimidation, or stalking. This can help lower the rates of femicides. At the international level, an important instrument is the Arms Trade Treaty, which makes it illegal to transfer weapons and material if there is a risk that those will be used to commit or facilitate acts of gender-based violence.
The Arms Trade Treaty has over 100 states parties. Since its adoption in 2013, many countries have sought to improve their weapons export risk assessments. One of the areas for improvement has been incorporation of human rights considerations, as well as indicators related to the prevalence of gender-based violence.
It's encouraging to hear practices like these are helping to create a safer world for women and girls, but much more can be done. UNIDIA's research shows that it is important to extend the reach to other areas, including the cyberspace, where online harassment and gender-based violence also occurs. This action is essential in order to ensure the prevention of all forms of violence against women and girls and the protection of their rights. So what does participation mean in the Women, Peace and Security agenda, and how can we connect the dots between this and arms control and disarmament? Well, increasing and improving women's participation in peace and security decision-making is one of the main goals of the WPS agenda. Women, as well as men, have the right to shape the outcomes of decisions that will affect their lives. However, when it comes to tackling the problem of weapons, the tools that shape war, we hit a disconnection. Women's participation is still behind the curve, as women are significantly underrepresented in arms control discussions. From consultations with village elders to international negotiations, all levels of decision-making, arms control and disarmament processes are still dominated by men. But we have seen some good practices emerge, connecting the dots between women's empowerment and arms control and disarmament processes. In early 2020, a group of countries came together to establish a fellowship and build on UNIDIA's research, still behind the curve. They offered sponsorship and a training program for women diplomats participating in cybersecurity negotiations.
According to our research, at the rate of current progress, it will take another 2 decades to reach gender parity in disarmament diplomacy, and almost another 5 decades before gender balance is achieved among heads of delegations. It should be clear that this is not only a numbers game. It's about ensuring that diverse voices and concerns are taken into account, that women are able to shape the outcomes of decisions, and that we create a more inclusive institutional culture in arms control and disarmament.
So what steps can we take? UNIDIA research shows that more efforts could be made to ensure that women, men, and persons of other gender identities affected by armed violence can meaningfully participate in arms control and disarmament. Systematically including survivors and their representative organizations will take participation to another level, making arms control processes more inclusive and effective.
As per the ICANN, there are almost 12,512 warheads, nuclear warheads in the world, with Russia possessing the largest number of nuclear warheads at 5,889, and United States possessing the next highest 5,224 nuclear warheads, and then in third position, China with 410 warheads, and France with 290 warheads at fourth position, and fifth position, United Kingdom with 225 warheads, and then at sixth position, Pakistan with 170 warheads, and next to that, India at seventh position at 164 warheads, Israel with 90 warheads, and North Korea with 30 warheads. So if one nuclear weapon detonated over, say, New York could cause 5,83,160 estimated fatalities as per ICANN. So these are estimates as per the sources from NukeMap, CIPRI Yearbook 2023 from Federation of American Scientists, and 2022 estimates of by June 2023. And there are 6 nations hosting nuclear weapons: Italy at 35, Turkey at 20, Belgium 15, Germany 15, Netherlands 15. All under USA, and Russia, Belarus is unknown, but is said to be hosting nuclear weapons, but is not unsure. So at present, 9 countries in the world that possess nuclear weapons, like Russia, United States, China, France, United Kingdom, Pakistan, India, Israel, North Korea. Together, these states have 12,700 nuclear warheads, of which 9,400 are in active military stockpiles. While this is a significant decline from the approximately 70,000 warheads owned by the nuclear armed states during the Cold War, nuclear arsenals are expected to grow over the coming decade, and today's forces are vastly more capable. So as already mentioned by the statistics, Russia has the most confirmed nuclear weapons with 5,997 nuclear warheads, and the United States follows behind with 5,428 nuclear weapons hosted in US and 5 other nations: Turkey, Italy, Belgium, Germany, and Netherlands. So the total number of warheads owned by these 2 countries alone counts for 90% of the nuclear weapons in the world. The number of warheads for North Korea and Israel is unconfirmed. However, it has been estimated that North Korea has enough fissile material to develop between 40 to 50 individual weapons, while Israel has material up to 200 with an estimated 90 existing warheads. So a single nuclear warhead could kill hundreds of thousands of people with lasting and devastating humanitarian and environmental consequences. Detonating just one nuclear weapon alone over New York, suppose, would cause an estimated 5,83,160 fatalities. Combined Russia, the United States, the United Kingdom, France, China, India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea possess an estimated total of roughly 13,000 nuclear weapons, most of which are many times powerful than the nuclear weapon dropped on Hiroshima. 32 other states are also part of this problem, with 5 nations hosting nuclear weapons and a further 27 endorsing their use. A tactical nuclear weapon is any weapon that has not been classified as strategic under the US-Russian arms control agreements. The Federation of the American Scientists currently estimates Russian non-strategic nuclear warheads at 1,912 and approximately 100 US non-strategic warheads deployed in 5 European countries. While these are often framed as smaller or low-yield nuclear weapons, and it's implied that there would be causing less damage, these warheads can have explosive yields up to 300 kilotons or 20 times that of the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. So Russia possesses around 5,899 nuclear weapons, has not yet joined the TPNW. and the United Nations possess 5,244 nuclear weapons, has not yet joined the TPNW. Even France, which possesses 290 nuclear weapons, has not yet joined the TPNW. This is a problem. Those who are having nuclear weapons have not joined any of this treaty on the prohibition of the nuclear weapons. And these nations have been consistently voting against the UN General Assembly resolution since 2018 that welcomes the adoption of TPNW. And 29 countries plus the 5 hosts also endorse the possession and use of nuclear weapons by allowing the potential use of nuclear weapons on their behalf as a past defense alliances, including the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, and the Collective Security Treaty Organization, CSTO, and all 34 countries that endorse nuclear weapon usage are Albania, Armenia, Australia, Belarus, Belgium, Bulgaria, Canada, Croatia, CIS, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Italy, Japan, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Montenegro, the Netherlands, North Macedonia, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, and Turkey.
Hi, I'm Liz. I'm presenting the statement for ICANN. Our statement will focus on the practice commonly known as nuclear sharing. ICANN is deeply concerned that a small but growing number of NPT states parties are undermining the NPT by engaging in this dangerous practice. At a time when states parties should be redoubling their efforts to strengthen the norm of non-proliferation and advance the disarmament, these few states are exacerbating nuclear risks and jeopardizing international security. 2 NPT nuclear weapon states now claim to station their nuclear forces on foreign soil, following Russia's announcement in June that it has begun deploying nuclear weapons in Belarus, with more to be delivered by year's end. This mirrors the United States' long-standing deployment of nuclear weapons in Belgium, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Turkey, a practice apparently endorsed by the entire NATO membership. We condemn all such deployments and call on those NPT states parties that are genuinely committed to nuclear disarmament, which is the vast majority, to do the same. Such deployments must be brought to an immediate end. If the concerned states parties fail to take prompt action to cease this practice, the NPT membership should decide by vote at the next review conference on the inadmissibility of nuclear sharing under the NPT. This practice runs counter to the fundamental tenets of the treaty and is a threat to the entire regime. We are eager to hear from those states that engage in the practice. What is the legal justification? And what, in your opinion, are the legal limits of this practice, if any? Can all nuclear weapon states lawfully deploy the nuclear weapons on the territories of other states? Can all 185 non-nuclear weapon states accept the deployment of such weapons on their territories? Surely not. It is in the interest of all NPT states parties that this practice does not spread further. And to guarantee that, it must be brought to an end. While the views of the NPT members on the illegality of nuclear sharing under the NPT may differ, the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons leaves no room for doubt. Nuclear sharing is expressly, absolutely prohibited. The TPNW provides the highest available multilateral norms against nuclear weapons. Half of all NPT states parties have already joined it, either as signatories or parties, and more are expected to do in the months and years ahead. The TPNW rejects the double standards that some NPT states parties seem intent on maintaining and entrenching. It fills a major gap in international law. As recent embrace of nuclear sharing by Russia and Belarus demonstrates, double standards cannot be maintained indefinitely. I'm from Germany, and over our government and nuclear weapon states and their allies suggest to us supposed security through nuclear sharing, through nuclear weapons. Security for whom and from whom at all. From their production, deployment, and the threat of their use, nuclear weapons are an existential security risk for people and the environment. This supposed security has devastating consequences for all of us, especially for those who have suffered for decades in succeeding generations from uranium mining, testing, and oppression by nuclear weapons. It is important to take responsibility, to recognize the humanitarian and environmental impacts of nuclear weapons instead of continuing to invest in this practice. The late South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who served as a patron of our campaign for many years, once wrote, "We must not tolerate a system of nuclear apartheid in which it is considered legitimate for some states to possess nuclear arms, but patently unacceptable for others to seek to acquire them. Such a double standard is no basis for peace and security in the world. The same standard must apply to all countries. Zero nuclear weapons. And this is the standard set by the TPNW. We urge all states to join it without delay. The TPNW complements and reinforces the NPT and offers the best hope of achieving real progress towards a world forever free of nuclear weapons." Thank you.
The feedback link has been already shared in the form of Zoom polls. You can fill it while the session is going on or after this session. If you are not able to access the form, you can log out and log in or check you can access it from the polls quizzes menu as well.
The reality of our times, the fact that atom bombs may someday be dropped on our cities.
People have always opposed nuclear weapons, since pretty much 1945, when they were first used. Huge movements through the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s really pushed nuclear disarmament and arms control effort forwards. At the end of the Cold War, the issue drifted off a little bit of international attention. But the doctors, the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, really agreed that we needed a joint campaign, gather all of these people that are against nuclear weapons in a joint coalition to make one big push to ban and eliminate them. And that's how ICAN came about. I am the Executive Director of the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons. And I work to coordinate this incredible movement of over 600 organizations in 108 countries, all working together in numerous creative, exciting ways to end nuclear weapons.
The weapon that threatens us.
We said nuclear weapons and humanities cannot coexist.
Together in Vienna is incredibly important, not just because of the recent threats to use nuclear weapons, but also for the people who have suffered from the consequences of these weapons. People that very often have been ignored and marginalized in these conversations. The test site communities, the survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, really these people that know more than anyone what nuclear weapons really are and what they do to people. And this place is where they get to be heard. And this place is where they get to be a part of the decisions around nuclear weapons.
You can't see your family die from the cancers and not feel it.
We just have to be as proactive as we possibly can.
I stand here with pride, and I stand here for our future and the generations to come. I stand here in hope and gratitude for the opportunity to participate.
My name is Karina Lester. I'm a second-generation nuclear test survivor. We hope that in this new treaty, governments will at last make reparation for the harm inflicted.
I thank my wonderful team back home. Without you all, my path would be a lot harder to travel.
This Nuclear Ban Week in Vienna is so important right now because we have just gone through something very traumatic as a whole world. This is the moment. This is where we all need to stop nuclear weapons. Politics and government decision is not just something that happens magically out of our control. We all contribute to creating the context of the political decisions.
I'm the co-founder of ICAN in Austria and one of the organizers of the Nuclear Ban Week here in Vienna. Vienna has always been a very important city for negotiations, especially in the nuclear field. We have the Iran talks taking place in Vienna, the Vienna Summit. I feel that Vienna, also as being a headquarters of the United Nations, is playing a crucial role in providing the ground for such talks.
So ICAN was originally launched in Australia, but fun fact, actually the international launch was held here in Vienna in April 2007 at the United Nations. So for ICAN, being here in Vienna now is really like coming home.
The Nuclear Ban Week will be full of very interesting, important meetings. There will be a parliamentarian conference to discuss between parliamentarians of different countries what they can do to support the treaty and to change the world. There will be a conference discussing the humanitarian impacts of nuclear weapons by the Austrian government. And from Tuesday until Thursday, states will meet for the very first time, the first meeting ever of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, to bring this treaty forward and to really make the plan to end nuclear weapons and to implement it.
So everyone here in Vienna, everyone at home, we really need your help.
Come and join us to put together the plan to end nuclear weapons.
Let's go.
Welcome to the Nuclear Ban Week here in Vienna. Let's act now.
videos is fun. There's a visceral joy in blowing things up and a horrifying fascination with things like fireballs, shockwaves and radiation. And while it does help put our destructive power in perspective, it's not the best way of understanding the real impact of a nuclear explosion. This isn't about city stacks of TNT or about how bright an explosion is. Nuclear weapons are about you. So we've partnered with the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement to explore what would really happen if a nuclear weapon were detonated in a major city today. Not nuclear war, just one explosion. We begin our story in the middle of downtown in a major city. People are going to work, studying for exams, are lost in their thoughts and daily lives. Right here, a nuclear weapon is detonated and time freezes. The first phase of the explosion happens within less than a second. In a millisecond, a ball of plasma hotter than the sun appears and grows in a fireball to more than 2 kilometers across. Within this ball, everyone is just gone. Think of water dripped onto a very hot pan. A sizzle, and then there's nothing. Most buildings, cars, trees, tacky sculptures, and people, all evaporated. First, the flash, an intense tsunami of light, washes over the city in an instant. If you happen to have your head pointed in the direction of the explosion, it renders you blind for a few hours. The heat of this light produces a thermal pulse, so energetic and hot that it just burns everything as far as 13 kilometers from the detonation site. What this means is that everything in an area of 500 square kilometers that is able to burn starts burning. Plastic, wood, fabric, hair, and skin. If you happen to be in reach of the thermal pulse, one moment you're on your way to work, the next moment you're on fire. Now the second phase begins. It happens in a few seconds. Most people will now first notice that something is wrong, but it's already too late for hundreds of thousands. The flash is followed by the shockwave. The heat and radiation of the fireball create a bubble of superheated and supercompressed air around it that's now expanding explosively. Faster than the speed of sound, creating winds stronger than hurricanes and tornadoes. Human infrastructure is no match for its power. Most major buildings within a kilometer of the fireball are just ground up down to their base. Only steel-reinforced concrete is able to partially resist the pressure. In the surrounding parks where retirees feed the ducks, trees blackened and smoldering from the heat a second before snap like toothpicks. If you're outside, you get tossed away like a grain of dust in a tornado. The shock wave weakens as it travels outwards, but still, about 175 square kilometers of houses collapse like they're made of cards, trapping tens of thousands of people who didn't have any time to react. Gas stations explode and fires spread throughout the rubble. A mushroom cloud made from the remains of the fireball, dust and ash rises kilometers into the sky in the next few minutes and casts a dark shadow over the ruined city. This violently pulls in fresh air surrounding the city, destroying more buildings and providing an abundance of oxygen. It depends on the city what happens next. If there's enough fuel, fires may turn into a firestorm that burns the rubble, everybody trapped in it, and people trying to flee the devastation. Up to 21 kilometers from the explosion, people just like you rush to their windows to take pictures of the mushroom cloud, unaware that the shockwave is still coming at them, about to shatter their windows and create a blizzard of sharp glass. The third phase begins in the coming hours and days. We're used to the idea that help will come, no matter the disaster. This time is different. A nuclear explosion is like every natural disaster at once. There are hundreds of thousands or millions of people with serious injuries, lacerations, broken bones, serious burns. In the next few minutes and hours, thousands more will die because of these injuries. Countless people are trapped in collapsed buildings like in earthquakes, or blinded by the flash, deaf from the blast wave, and unable to flee through streets impassable with rubble and debris. They're terrified, confused, and don't know what's happened to them or why. Most likely, many hospitals have been leveled along with all the other buildings, and most medical professionals are either dead or injured along with everyone else. The survivors lucky enough to have been in metro tunnels or standing in the right place to be unburned and unhurt won't have truly escaped harm yet. Depending on the type of weapon, where it explodes, and even the weather, an awful black rain can begin, with radioactive ash and dust descending on the city, covering everything and everyone. The invisible, malicious, silent horror of radiation takes its turn. Every breath carries poison to the lungs of the survivors. Over the coming days, the people who receive the highest doses of radiation exposure will die. There will be no help, not for hours or maybe even days. Civilization doesn't operate when there is a total breakdown of infrastructure. Roads are blocked, train tracks warped, runways cluttered with rubble. No water, no electricity, no communication, no stores to replenish supplies from. Help from surrounding cities will have a hard time entering the disaster zone, and even if they can, the radioactive contamination will make it risky to get too close. After a nuclear attack, you're on your own. So, bit by bit, people emerge from the rubble, on foot, contaminated with radioactive fallout, carrying what little they may have left. They are slow, in pain, traumatized, and they all need food, water, and medical treatment fast. And the damage done by a nuclear weapon doesn't end when the fires burn out and the smoke clears. The hospitals in the neighboring cities are under-equipped for a disaster of this scale and overwhelmed with tens or hundreds of thousands of patients with serious injuries. In the weeks, months, and years to come, many of those who survived will succumb to cancers like leukemia. The reason no government wants you to think about all this is because there is no serious humanitarian response possible to a nuclear explosion. There's no way to really help the immediate victims of a nuclear attack. This is not a hurricane, wildfire, or earthquake, or nuclear accident. It is all of these things at once, but worse. No nation on Earth is prepared to deal with it. The world has changed in the past few years, with world leaders again explicitly and publicly threatening each other with nuclear weapons. Many experts think the danger of a nuclear strike is higher than it has been in decades. Governments tell their citizens that it's good that we have nuclear weapons, but it's bad when anyone else gets them. That it's somehow necessary to threaten others with mass destruction to keep us safe. But does this make you feel safe? It only takes a small group of people with power to go crazy or rogue, a small misstep or a simple misunderstanding to unleash a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. Exploding stuff in videos is fun. Exploding things in real life, not so much. There is a solution though. Eliminating all nuclear weapons and vowing never to build them again. In 2017, almost two-thirds of all the world's countries, supported by hundreds of civil society organizations and the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement, agreed to prohibit and eliminate nuclear weapons. It's not about who has nuclear weapons and who doesn't. The weapons themselves are the problem. They are deeply immoral and an existential threat to all of us. No matter what country you come from, no matter what political side you find yourself on, we need to demand that they disappear forever. This will not happen without pressure. If you want to be part of this pressure, there are things you personally can do too. Visit notonukes.org to learn more about nuclear weapons and what you can do about them.
Today is also commemorated as World Polio Day, which is annually observed on October 24th. This day commemorates global efforts towards a polio-free future, as well as the selfless sacrifices of those working on the front line of the battle to eradicate polio from every corner of the world. Polio is contagious due to the ease with which the polio virus spreads. Although the virus is not exceedingly rare because of the modern interventions, it can impair with brain regions that govern respiration, resulting in death. Polio, which has no recognized therapy, only can be avoided through vaccination. For thousands of years, humans have been infected with the polio virus. An Egyptian artifact from around 1400 BC depicts a person with a polio-like limb deformity. For most of the 1800s, polio appeared to be relatively uncommon disease among human populations, when other diseases like diphtheria, typhoid, and tuberculosis were on the wane in the early 1990s. Early 1900s, polio reached pandemic proportions in countries with relatively good living standards. Researchers believe that enhanced hygiene has resulted in an increase in polio cases. According to the hypothesis, children were inadvertently exposed to polio in the past due to polluted water supplies. If maternal antibodies are still present in the baby's blood, their immune systems can quickly attack the polio virus. And establish long-term immunity. Increased sanitation meant that polio exposure was delayed for years. On average, until a kid has lost maternal protection and was more vulnerable to the polio's most severe form. In 1994, the Western Hemisphere was declared polio-free thanks to the extensive vaccination. Only Afghanistan and Pakistan are affected by it. With the occasional spread to other nations, vaccination campaigns are being conducted aggressively to eliminate the last residual pockets. As a result, polio vaccines are still recommended all over the world, particularly for children under the age of 5 who are most vulnerable to the infection. If you or someone you love has been exposed to the virus, the first signs and symptoms you may notice are high fever, exhaustion, headache, nausea, stiff neck, paralysis, difficulty breathing, swallowing, or speaking, and pain in the limbs are the symptoms and signs of polio. After getting vaccinated, it is still possible to catch polio even if you are inoculated against it. Immune-compromised people can contract polio from children who have recently had a polio vaccination. So the wild polio virus, WPVs, has been identified, type 1, type 2, and type 3. The polio vaccine is the best way to prevent polio as it offers protection against all 3 types of virus. One of the most important things you can do to help polio is offer your time, money, and resources or voice to spread the word. Donating in whatever form you like helps a lot. You can also help stop polio by arranging a fundraiser. It can be a walk, a run, event, or anything else. And the amount earned will be donated to one of the numerous groups fighting to eradicate polio or to the government programs. So if you have not already done so, vaccinate your children against polio, because there are asymptomatic polio virus carriers who can still spread the diseases. It is critical to protect everyone by vaccinating every child. Children are mostly affected. Poliomyelitis primarily affects children under the age of 5. It is an irreversible paralysis. 1 in 200 infections results in permanent paralysis, and when their respiratory muscles become immobilized, 5% to 10% of paralyzed people die. To combat other infectious diseases, many countries have increased their ability to monitor and immunize their populations through a global effort. There were around 350,000 cases of polio worldwide in 1988. However, this figure has since dropped to only 37 confirmed cases in 2016. Polio can spread across the globe as long as there is a single person who is still carrying the disease. So World Polio Day raises awareness about the disease. With knowledge comes power, and we can use it to eradicate polio by playing our part in doing so, in creating awareness and spreading knowledge. Many advances have been made in the fight to eradicate polio. One of the humanity's great victories is that we have substantially reduced the number of cases, saving so many people from paralysis. The polio vaccine goal is to eradicate the virus. To stop the virus spread, eradication efforts will be maintained by establishing mass immunization campaigns and expanding disease surveillance to catch any new instances that occur. And finally, today we are commemorating Vijayadashmi, that is Dasra, which is the 10th day and the last day of Durga Puja. All over India and across the world, Hindus celebrate this auspicious day in many different ways. In some parts, it is the goddess Durga killed the demon Mahishasura. After 9 days of Navaratri, the festival culminates with the immersion of idol of Durga wherever it is installed. This was also the day King Rama, the avatar of Vishnu, killed Ravana, the 10-headed demon. To celebrate the legend, huge effigies of Ravana are burned, and with it burns all evil. Generally, this is also practiced, and Vijayadashmi, the eternal promise that good will always vanquish evil. So this celebration is on the 10th day of Hindu calendar month of Ashvina, which typically falls in September or October, and this year on October 24th. So Vijayadashmi or Dasra has several different legends associated to it, with common theme being victory of good over evil. It is often reported that the story of Rama's victory over Ravana can be traced as far back as 5114 BC as per one of the records, but it might be much more earlier, because that it is based on the historical records, and that you don't have proper historical records, because this is based on the Western records. This famous Hindu celebration, or because Lord Rama is an ideal for a human being, is a role model for the entire human beings as such. So being a secular celebration, and the 8th incarnation of Lord Sri Mahavishnu, Lord Rama killed the 10-headed devil Ravana. Lord Rama, along with his brother Lakshmana and follower Hanuman, trekked to the Ravana's kingdom to fight him and bring back Sita, who was abducted, kidnapped by the Ravana. So Rama's wife, on their way, Rama prayed to Durga and was eventually victorious. So Durga Puja celebrations have been found records since 1500 BC and earlier, with these celebrations often draw up goddess Durga's assassination of the demon Mahishasura. So even we see the evidences of Ramayana, and also Ayodhya, Sri Lanka, where we can see the Lanka, Ravana's kingdoms remains even today. UNESCO also recognized the performing arts, inscribed the performance arts tradition during Vijayadashmi as an intangible culture heritage of humanity. In 2008. So it also marks the end of Durga Puja, and they remember the goddess Durga's victory over Mahishasura to restore and protect Dharma. And it is also remembered as God Rama's victory over Ravana. And there are also various legends associated with it. And the various parts of the Indian subcontinent and world celebrate the festival for different reasons. And in this 9 days of Navaratri, the different avatars of Goddess Durga are celebrated over a 9-day period. These are Goddess Shailputri on day 1, Goddess Brahmacharini on day 2, Goddess Chandraganta on day 3, Goddess Kushmananda on day 4, Goddess Kandamata on day 5, Goddess Katyayani on day 6, Goddess Kalratri on day 7, Goddess Mahagauri on day 8, and Goddess Siddhidatri on day 9. So during this festival, enjoy attending displays of idols, foods, handicrafts, and enactment of Ram Leela. Mostly all of them end with ceremonial burning of Ravana effigy that might also include fireworks display. The epic of Ramayana is available in many languages, though it is termed as epic, but it's a reality that has happened. So it is a fascinating story to read about the life of King Rama. Immersing the idol of Vijayadashmi symbolizes how a deity moves from formless clay to form idle, and again to the formless in water, bringing a balance to the nature and cosmic energy. That's how we came from the Supreme Being and we go back to the Supreme Being. Most importantly, Vijayadashmi is about spiritual growth. The real battle is inside us. Both Ravana and Rama resides within us. So there is a battle between good and evil inside us, each one of us, maybe at each moment of us. We must strive to conquer the inner negativity, inner evil over good. The great conqueror Ashoka converted to Buddhism on Vijayadashmi, vowing never to lift a weapon again. So Ravana's 10 heads represent his knowledge of 6 Shastras and 4 Vedas. And it also represents for 10 human vices that we must symbolically burn in our quest for salvation. Because Ravana is also a great scholar, a great devotee, a great warrior. But because he adopted unethical means, immoral means, and which has eventually led to his own destruction of kingdom and as well as himself. So it also says that the means and ways are also important while selecting to reach a goal. If the means and ways are not righteous, and if we are adopting bad ways or which is not ethical, moral, and righteous, we may enjoy short-term benefits, but in the long run, we will face various issues and ultimately the failure will be the destiny. So Rama killing Ravana is a symbolic too, with Ravana's 10 heads representing 10 human vices. This is a time to pray and conquer our weakness. It reaffirms our faith in the fact that evil cannot win. It may appear that evil is winning temporarily, but over the long run, it is only the good that wins, the truth that triumphs, and that a divine power is watching over us. In many parts of the southern India, young children are introduced to the learning on this day. In fact, it is a great day to begin any project. So as we have exceeded our time, I would not take much time. So with this, we shall conclude today's commemorations and event. Thank you everyone for joining us. Do not forget to fill the feedback form, which has been already shared in the form of polls in Zoom platform. It is not available once the meeting gets ended. So we request everyone to access the form through polls or quizzes in the menu option where you can see active polls. If you haven't already filled, or those who are not able to access, you can log out and log in and you can fill the feedback form. And the certificates link from where you can download your certificates has been shared in the chat box. We'll be sharing you once again in the chat box where you can visit in a week's time to download your certificates. So we wish you all happy Dasra, happy Vijayadashmi. Let's all pray that Goddess Sri Durga helps us, gives us, bestows us, blesses us, graces us to overcome these 10 vices and bless with health, well-being, knowledge and fortune in the coming days. So with this, we shall conclude this event. Thank you once again for everyone for joining us. Before you leave, make sure you are completing the feedback form and submitting it. So the daily sessions are happening as part of webinar series. Do continue to attend. See you all tomorrow at the same time with the same link. Take care. Good night.